XRP has taken a bit of a dip recently. We're sitting at 288 XRP right now. But when I look up at the overall crypto market cap, it's sitting at $3.69 trillion. The all-time high? $3.9 trillion. To me, all these small moves don't matter much. I'm focused on the trillions that are still on the way. So from my perspective, dips like this are nothing more than buying opportunities. Just a quick heads up, I'm not a financial advisor, but I had to share this because it's hilarious. Dom and Phil Quach from EZA dropped this funny video from the floor of the New York Stock Exchange. They're out there on Wall Street, and a bunch of you have been asking, is EZA going public? Well, not quite yet, but when they do, they're calling it now. The price will be $589. Remember that number. So this all happened the same week Dom Quach from EZA shared his thoughts on XRP hitting $1,000 by 2030. He even retweeted it later, pointing out how the mainstream media barely talks about XRP. That's what pushed me to speak up, so I went straight to the New York Stock Exchange, part of the world finance circuit, to spread the word and publicly share my $1,000 XRP target for the first time. Here's the full interview, and I'm not sure if I've highlighted this before, but let me say it now. Dom Quach really knows his stuff. He's often seen at Ripple HQ, and both he and his brother are incredibly sharp. I've met them. They come from a powerhouse family of Ivy Leaguers. Their youngest brother just graduated from Harvard. Dom himself studied at Wharton, while his brother holds multiple degrees, including a law degree, and attended Stanford. Dom's background is next level. He's built valuation models for some of the biggest names in finance: Blackstone, Goldman Sachs, Morgan Stanley. Landing a role at Goldman alone means you're among the best of the best. So when a guy like Dom throws out a valuation on XRP, it's not coming from guesswork. It's backed by serious analysis. This guy really understands the game. So, naturally, I started digging deeper into what he was really trying to communicate. That's when his brother Phil put out a tweet explaining how a supply shock could potentially drive a tokens market cap sky high, basically to infinity. Here's how he broke it down. Market cap is just the circulating supply multiplied by the price. Simple. And that price? It's based on the value of the most recent trade, specifically the VWAP, the volume-weighted average price. Now, in an order book system, if there aren't enough sell orders, the price keeps rising until it hits the next one. Once that order is filled, the price moves up again to the next available sell point. So if there's a true supply shock where hardly anyone is selling, the price can keep climbing with no ceiling. That's the core idea. Phil even put together a visual to illustrate it. Now, it's not an exact prediction model since we can't see future orders, but it's a great tool to understand how all the mechanics work together. In the visual, they start with XRP priced at $2.97 as the buy orders start clearing out. The book, you can see the price ticking up: $50, $1.60, $70, $1.80, all the way to $90. It gives you a real sense of how a supply shock could play out in the real world. So let's rewind to a thread Chad Steingraver posted back in December 2023. He laid out something that most people completely overlook: the actual circulating supply of XRP available on crypto exchanges is much lower than people think. A ton of XRP has been lost over the years. Case in point, banker Mellon reportedly held 1 billion XRP and passed away, with his keys likely lost forever. That's just one example. Right now, there's maybe around 20 billion XRP floating on public exchanges, give or take. That's not a lot. And here's the part most people aren't ready for. When the banks are finally ready to move, they're coming for that public supply. And when they scoop it up, it's gone permanently. It's not coming back. Now, just imagine this. Institutions and liquidity hubs suddenly start panic buying XRP off public order books. We're talking multi-billion-dollar inflows hitting the exchanges like a tidal wave. What happens when they burn through the available liquidity in a matter of hours? XRP at 30 cents. Gone. 40 cents, 50 cents, even $1, all wiped out. And once those order books are cleared, arbitrage kicks in. exchanges start aligning with the highest private market prices while moving funds for cash out or settlement. At that stage, institutional players aren't dumping XRP back into retail markets for short-term profits. Why would they? They're thinking way bigger, like facilitating trillions in global payments, not flipping tokens for a few bucks. And here's the crazy part. We've only talked about the banks so far. That doesn't even include investment demand. The US dollar money supply alone is around $40 trillion. Want to be in the top 1% of XRP holders? That might mean holding 60 to 70K XRP, which is worth maybe $30,000 today. But there are only a few billion XRP actually available for public trading. Now expand your thinking. Bring in global banks, liquidity hubs, high net worth individuals, billionaires, institutions. Add derivatives, ETFs, tokenized real-world assets, even industries like gaming that use XRP as a utility layer. Then ask yourself, what happens when the public circulating supply drops from billions to 1 billion to under a billion, then down to 100 million, and one day, 21 million? And we all know what a 21 million token supply means, right? Think Bitcoin. I never said what XRP's price would be. You probably already went there in your mind. And that's the whole point. Now, just for reference, I asked Grok to estimate how much XRP is actually on retail exchanges as of August 2025. The range? Somewhere between 15 to 33 billion XRP globally. But if you've been around long enough, you might remember this theory one that ties everything together. I believe Dom Quosh and his crew, when they talk about XRP hitting $1,000 by 2030, they're referencing this exact scenario. The shrinking availability of XRP on public exchanges. It mirrors what Shane Ellis predicted years ago, that if the available liquidity is thin enough, a single buy order of, say, $39 million could sweep through the order books and spike the price dramatically, possibly into the hundreds. Arbitrage across exchanges would amplify it. Ripple's partnerships would add fuel, and the price momentum would just keep rolling. But you get the idea. Now let's shift to something interesting. Charles Payne recently had a segment with a well-known Bitcoin maximalist. I actually forgot her name. She blocked me a while ago just for calling out facts about Bitcoin. They were discussing the correlation between Bitcoin and the money supply. It's pretty clear, even for non-chart watchers. The price of Bitcoin tends to track alongside monetary expansion. And here's the key point. They're going to keep debasing the currency. Liquidity is at record highs, largely because of massive government deficits. And those deficits? They're not slowing down anytime soon. Projections suggest we'll be racking up about $18 billion in new debt per day for the rest of 2025. So, what's the solution? The argument they made is that you need an asset immune to inflation and debasement. Their answer was Bitcoin. But here's where I disagree. XRP is actually better suited for that role. Why? Sure, Bitcoin has a fixed max supply of 21 million, but XRP is capped too at 100 billion, and it's deflationary. Unlike Bitcoin, XRP gets burned with every transaction, meaning the total supply decreases over time. That's a huge difference. Here's the example I gave my son just the other day. Think of Bitcoin like Babe Ruth rookie cards. Let's say there are exactly 21 million of them in existence. Now imagine you own some of those cards, but none ever disappear. That's Bitcoin. Now imagine a second set, also starting at 21 million. But every time someone trades a card, a few get destroyed forever. Over time, that supply shrinks. Which set of cards would you rather hold? The one that stays fixed, or the one that gets more scarce with every use? It's a no-brainer. Now here's a recent clip of Donald Trump talking about what's coming over the next 5 to 6 months. He's predicting a massive economic surge. According to him, the U.S. is about to enter a major boom phase. Oil plants are gearing up to break ground in record numbers. AI is exploding, and the amount of capital flowing in is off the charts. He mentioned that we've already attracted nearly $17 trillion in investments, and he says that's just the beginning. According to Trump, once all of this starts moving, we're going to see a level of success in this country that we've never experienced before. His words? Wait until you see the boom. Alright, here's a quick clip from the new SEC chairman. I wanted to share a key part of what he said. He's now openly talking about on-chain markets. The interviewer asked him straight up, "Are you suggesting that all securities should be tokenized?" His answer? Maybe. He drew a comparison to the 1960s, when securities were still all on paper. Back then, markets were booming so fast that the New York Stock Exchange literally had to shut down one day a week, sometimes even two, just to keep up with all the paperwork. The systems couldn't handle the volume. That crisis led to big changes. Book entry systems replaced paper, and the DTCC, Depository Trust and Clearing Corporation, was created to digitize the entire process. It was a game-changing moment. Now, according to him, we could be approaching a similar inflection point, but with blockchain. He said he doesn't have a crystal ball, but 5 years from now, the market infrastructure could look completely different. And the SEC wants to be positioned in a way that supports innovation, not blocks it. Then came the big question. Does the SEC still rely on the old Howey test to decide if a crypto asset is a security? You know, the one based on a Supreme Court case about orange groves from 80 years ago? His take? It's outdated. He hinted that we may need a totally new framework, something more modern and relevant to today's tokenized world. Now, before I jump over to die-xrp.com, quick reminder, I'm not a financial advisor. This content is for entertainment and education only. If you want to support, you can hit the join button on YouTube or head over to the Patreon via die-xrp.com. And of course, smash that like button and share this with your friends and family. Let's get into it.